really have seen that family have such a resources that we cannot imagine if we do not meet with the family. And we aim at generating dialogue, and this actually becomes the most important aspect. No longer thinking that the aim of the meeting is to have a solution. The solutions comes a part of self-evident process that is opened up while we focus on how do we manage to have all the voices heard.
So the purpose is dialogue, and as a consequence of the dialogue, the solutions happen.
Yeah, the change starts to happen immediately. In the first meeting, it's very non-understandable. I cannot understand what does it mean. I'm very confused. But later on, step by step, I start to realize that actually she is speaking of something that has happened in her life, and this may be the first time ever it become possible to have some words of those experiences. It's in a way a kind of metaphorical way to speak of things that beforehand did not have any words to speak about it. And for that reason, it's very important, actually extremely important for us to take it seriously, to start to listen what are her words, and step by step, she perhaps have more and more words to her experiences. All of us could have psychotic problems. It's an answer to a very difficult life situation. And when I face with a situation which is very stressful for me, so I can start to hear voices, for instance. It could happen for me, it could happen for you, it could happen for anyone. If you are stressful in a situation, the things that people speak in their hallucination, for instance, in their odd experiences, are things that actually has happened in their life. There are some limits that we have to take into account. And the limits is that absolutely we do not accept any misuse of family members, any abuse of emotionally or sexually, or any violence is not allowed. So
by clients, by families, by
family members to each other and so on. So that is stopped. That has to be stopped. And those are the limits in thinking. That part has to be changed, absolutely, from the very beginning.
And you tell them that?
Yeah. And if it's not possible to sit jointly, so they are organized separate meetings for instance, the one who is abusing other family member, so a meeting for him or her, and the meeting for the rest of the family. Many of the family members said that it was so important to have these talks early on, because I learned so much new things. I learned so much new things about myself. I learned to speak, for instance. I have in my mind for one father who said that I learned to speak. I've never spoken of my things, of my emotions, and now in the crisis I learned to speak and say things. So the crisis can be very valuable situation, because we can learn new language, we can learn to ourselves in a new way, and we can learn to listen each other in a new way that we were not used to. And of course there is the therapists that are needed to help to do that, because the family members really can have a history that is impossible to really listen to each other and take each other seriously. Two dangerous things might happen is that the person who has psychotic ideas easily start to isolate herself from surroundings, from the family, from the contact to friends, and so on. And the second can be that the one who has psychotic ideas start to build up a strategy. How do I deal with my odd experiences? And it may lead into a situation in which persons start to behave in a quite odd way. And for that reason, it's very important that the helpers, we as helpers, would be there before this kind of process is opened. That's why it's so important to be present during the first day or first 2 days, because as someone has said, that the window is open to deal with those experiences as well, but after 2 days the window is closed. It's no longer possible to speak openly of those odd experiences that one have of the lives. And when the window is closed to those experiences, it's much more difficult to start to work with those experiences. The idea from the very beginnings, is 80s, has been that in every crisis the family is included in the first meeting. And we made a kind of follow-up, how many clients every year new clients comes. And in the middle of 90, when I was still working there, we realized that there is some 1,500 clients out of the 70,000 inhabitants every year taking contact, and with them the family, in a crisis in which the family is included. And then if you...
So of 70,000 inhabitants,
yeah.
That's your catchment
yeah.
area?
Yeah.
That you dealt with 1,500 crisis situations?
Yeah, yeah.
1,500 clients?
Yeah.
And in 1 year?
Yeah, in 1 year, yeah. And with all of them, 2 or 3 other family members. So it means that every year between 5 to 7% of the population participates in these open meetings. And now this has been going on for almost 25 years or more than 20 years. So it means a big part of the people in the area has at least sometimes been participated in these open meetings. And what has happened, what we know exactly has happened, that this duration of untreated psychosis had declined to 3 weeks. So that the people really seem to have learned to make early contact, to ask for help, instead of waiting home that the things becomes better.
How long did they used to wait? What was the usual previous period of, quote, untreated
We only had the information in our previous study. It was 3.5 months in the middle of 90s, but we know from other studies that it can be from 1 to 2 years if there is not this kind of system.
So in many other places in the world, potentially, and I hear these stories all the time,
yeah.
people having serious problems and people don't get any help, don't reach out to anyone, don't do any self-help or anything for years.
Yes.
And so in this area around Tornio, people have gotten trust in your system and had so much contact with it that it's shrunk down to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Before they 3 weeks, and then they reach out for help.
And it's really enough time to develop into schizophrenia problem, and that's perhaps one part of why there is so few.
Right. So basically, because this is my thought, that you're catching the people so early.
Yeah.
The intervention, if you want to use that word, is so good that the people get well before they have a chance to have it develop into this thing called schizophrenia, according to the DSM.
Yeah.